Hey guys, welcome back to my CCNA 200-301 course. Patrice is here, and in this video we are going to configure IP version 6 static routing. Are you ready? Let's get started. Our today's scenario is pretty much similar to the previous one, except for this one I'm using CSR routers. Again, they have been implemented in EVE-NG. So again, we have router 1, 2, and 3. And this time we are going to use IP version 6 addresses. These are unique local IP addresses if you remember from our previous videos. And they start from 1, 2, 4. Actually, this is a kind of waste of a lot of IP addresses because here we only need 2 IP addresses, for example, between these two routers. But we're using a 1/64 subnet, which is a huge waste of IP addresses. But anyway, this is for demonstration only. So these are, again, the IP addresses of the individual hosts. This is for PC1, this is for router 1, and etc. Now let's go and configure IP version 6 unicast routing. First tip for IP version 6 routing, no matter static or dynamic, is by default Cisco routers do not have IP version 6 routing enabled in contrast to IP version 4 routing. So first of all, you have to enable IP version 6 routing on Cisco routers, and then you would be able to configure, your IP version 6 routing configuration will work. To enable IP version 6 routing, you go to global configuration mode, and this is the command that you need to run, IPv6 unicast-routing. And this will enable IP version 6 routing on your device. Next, we are going to configure IP version 6 address on our router. So again, we have to select the desired interface. On router 1, we start with gigabit 2, which is connected to the end host. And the command to set the IP address on this interface is IPv6 address. This is a CSR router, so by default, all interfaces are in layer 3. In contrast to multi-layer switches, you don't need to run no switch port command. So we just set IPv6 address and then the IP address FD00, and it is in subnet 1, and the IP address is 254, and the subnet mask is /64. So this is how we configure IP version 6 addresses on our routers interfaces. Same thing needs to happen on gigabit 1. So we run the same command, IPv6 address, but this time the IP address is different, and this is FD00221. So now I'm expecting some routing table to see or check the contents of IP version 6 routing table, because Cisco routers, or probably other vendors as well, keep 2 separate routing tables for IP version 4 and IP version 6, so they are separate. To be able to check the contents or the routes that are installed in the routing table of IP version 6, we say show IPv6 route. And you can see that those 2 interfaces, IP addresses, which are directly connected now, they do not appear here. Why? Because by default, in many Cisco routers, all interfaces are in shutdown mode. So because those interfaces are down, then we are not able to see them. To confirm that, if I run show interface gig 1, you can see that this interface, if I scroll up a bit, this interface is in administratively down mode. And this means that it is in shutdown mode. So to bring it out of shutdown mode, we select the interfaces, interface range, gig 1 and 2, and then we say no shutdown. Once I got the message that these 2 interfaces are in up status, Now I check my routing table, show IPv6 route. And as you can see, now those two routes are appeared as connected routes in the IPv6 routing table. 1/64 and 2/64 are directly connected route. Same coding stuff works in IPv6 routing table as well. I'll pause the video and configure the same IP address schema on the other routers as well, and then we'll come back for the routing configuration. Okay, now all IP addresses are set, and we're going to configure IPv6 static routes in router 1. To configure IPv6 routes, static routes, everything is the same, except instead of IP route, we say IPv6 route, and the same thing. On router 1, we know about network 1 and 2, so we need to add a route for networks 3 and 4. So I say FD00 and then 3 and then /64. This is the network that I want to add a route to it. And who is the next hop? Again, we have the option to set the outgoing interface or the next hop IP address or both. And similar recommendation. If it is a point-to-point small serial network, you can set the outgoing interface. Otherwise, when you're dealing with multi-access networks or Ethernet networks in this scenario, it's better to use the next hop IP address, which in this case is FD00 and then 2 and then 2. This is our route destined to network 3. What I forgot to mention in the previous video is Cisco likes to name these type of routes. This route is called a network route. And we can add individual routes for one host as well. And that will be naming as host route. So if you add a route to cover the whole subnet, it is called a network route. But if you add a specific route for a specific host, and you can determine it based on the subnet mask. So for this case, if you add /128, or for IP version 4, if you say /32, it means an individual host. So that is called a host route. And then for subnet, the mask is, the route is IPv6 route, FD004 /64, and then the next hop IP address. You can use do to run the commands that need to be run in the previous mode. So in this case, I say do show IPv6 route, and you can see that now we have static routes here. Show IP route or show IPv6 route are customizable as well. So if you want to check a specific type of route, you can add it in front of the command. So if you're looking for a static route, you can say show IPv6 route static. I just want to see what static routes are configured here. Or since we have connected routes here, connected. Show me only the connected routes here. And also you can search for a specific destination. These are applicable to IP version 4 as well. So for example, you can say show IPv6 route and then search for this subnet. And it shows you about that subnet. What is the routing entry for that subnet? It is directly connected via gigabit 2 and etc. Same setup for router 2. Router 2 knows about networks 2 and 3. So we need to tell it about networks 1 and 4. So we say IPv6 route FD00 and then 1/64, and then the next hop would be FD00 2 and 1. This is for this subnet, and for subnet 4 the next hop is 3 2. Just like the previous video, for router 3, I want to use the default route. To set a default route for IP version 6, the command is IPv6 route, and instead of 0.0.0.0 space 0.0.0.0 for IP version 4, in IP version 6 we say : /0. This is similar to the ones that we set for IP version 4. This means all networks with all subnets. And the gateway for this one is FD00 and then 3 and then 1, which is router 2. Now it's the verification time. For the verification, again, I start from PC1 and ping FD001254, which is router 1, directly connected interface to PC1. And then I go to 2.2, which is router 2. And then I go to 3.2, which is router 3. And then I finally go to the PC and ping 4.1. And as you can see, I can ping all available subnets in this scenario. Alright guys, this was our today's video. In the next video, I'll be talking about dynamic routing basics. I wish you enjoyed today's video and see you in the next ones.